Imagine a media platform that reshapes the conversation, empowers your voice, and redefines the Bronx community. Bronx Post, changing the reality, changing the narrative. For businesses, politicians, and government agencies, we offer targeted advertising solutions that drive results. Amplify your message. Reach the heart of the Bronx and beyond. Our platform connects you to the community. Learn more. Email info@bronxpost.com or call 718-892-5555. Visit www.bronxpost.com for breaking news and updates. Bronx Post, changing the reality, changing the narrative.
As I said, I'm Robert Press. Here is my official New York City press card, and I write for the Bronx Post and Park Justice Times. Both like this show that are part of Parrot Media Corporation. I also contribute to the Co-op City News, have a blog at www.100%.blogspot.com, and Facebook pages 100% and What is Going On in Your Local Community Board. The views expressed on this show are that of the host, any guest, or anyone commenting at the bottom of the screen, and not necessarily that of Parrot Media Corporation. Let's go to a quick weather report. Today, Friday, the high should only get to about 32 degrees. It is the coldest day of this season now. Saturday and Sunday, the highs should get about above 40, maybe 40, 41. And Monday, we'll be going back to about 33. So get ready for the cold weather and watch out for black ice on the road that may freeze when it gets dark. And that includes the bike lanes for our good friend Kevin Diola, who reminds you that he does ride in the dark. So, Kevin, be careful of black ice. Now, let me introduce my guest for today. It's Anthony Ravecchio. Can we have Anthony come on, please? Because we want to talk about what happened in the election on election day. Anthony, are you there?
Good morning.
Good morning, Anthony. Hopefully we'll get your picture on so soon. Now, as far as the election went, any surprises for you? Because I'm going to go into the details.
There were several surprises, not the numbers on the surface more than the numbers beneath the surface. What I did was I looked at the numbers both from a citywide perspective, but I also looked at some races predominantly from a Bronx perspective. And then those numbers I found a little surprising.
Right, because the total ballots that were given out for mayor was 2,218,647. And in the Bronx, we had 241,304, which is a little more than 10%, considering that we have a higher population than 10% of the city.
That is correct.
The unrecorded votes, meaning people who just passed on the position, was 24,443 citywide and 4,781 in the Bronx. Now, let's go into individual numbers. So, Zoran Kwame Mandami on the Democratic line received 944,950 votes citywide and 110,955 in the Bronx. The second place finisher, Andrew Cuomo, who was on the Fight and Deliver independent line, received 906,614 citywide and 95,110 in the Bronx. Both candidates had $14 million to spend, and soon-to-be Mayor Mandami also was on the Working Families line, where he received 169,234 votes citywide and 11,438 in the Bronx on the Working Families line. The big disappointment in this race was Curtis Sliwa on the Republican line. We'll get into that in a moment. He received only 143,305 votes citywide and 15,435 votes in the Bronx. Eric Adams, under the Safe and Affordable / End Anti-Semitism line, who said he was out of the race, received 6,897 votes citywide and 1,122 votes in the Bronx. And the next candidate on the conservative line, Irene Estrada, received 2,856 votes citywide and 513 votes in the Bronx. Any comments on Irene Estrada's race?
Some comments on the mayor's race, including Mrs. Estrada. I think it's fair to say, right, that in looking at it as a Monday morning quarterback, I think it's safe to say that no matter how these numbers come about, Madami would have won. So I look at these numbers now as a primary. And when I look at them in a primary, two things come to mind. And what I mean by a primary is Cuomo versus Madami. And just Cuomo as an independent, Madami as a Democrat. Forget all the secondary, third party situation. When you look at it as a raw primary, you will see citywide that Madami won 51 to 49. Cuomo actually got 49. But now you swing it to the Bronx, and Madami wins 70 to 30. And I just found that to be very surprising.
It's only a difference of 15,000 votes, Tony. It's 110,955 to 95.
What it shows, for me anyway, is that there was what I call a Cuomo wave that took place. And when we go into the city council races, I'll explain that in more detail.
Well, I just want to say one more thing about the conservative candidate, Irene Estrada. She was a district leader in 2020, where she received about 4,000 votes in one assembly district. Then she ran for the city council, the 13th council district, where she received more votes than she did in the entire Bronx. She received about 550 votes compared to the 513 votes. Do you think it's time for Irene Estrada to hang it up?
As you know, Mrs. Estrada's from the 80th Assembly District, where we're both from. So we both known her a long time. She's been a great community leader, which I think sometimes is a subtle but big difference between community leader and party leader or district leader or electoral leader. Those have different personalities, different traits. And I think the public has said to her, you're a decent community leader with all the community leaders that we have in the area. But as far as another type of leader, maybe they don't feel comfortable with her, being in that area. So yes, Mrs. Estrada, like many other people, of course, afterwards are going to have to look at themselves in the mirror and re-examine how they want to go into 2026. And
she raised $810, including $10 from our friend Dion Powell. She spent $626, so she has a balance of $184. This was on the latest.
Now, wait a minute. Here comes the key to your question. Because campaign finance is 9-1, was that $10 donation only $10 or $90?
No, because she did not make the minimum amount.
Okay.
She didn't even have to report because she raised under $1,000, like our other friend, Mr. John Perez, who didn't report anything because he raised under $1,000. Let's move on to.
In all seriousness, I wish her the best of luck from the beginning. But sometimes, there's just, there are things that are too big that you can't handle. You just can't walk into college and say, all right, I want to be a senior. You can't do something like that.
Okay, let's move on to the public advocate race, where Jumaane Williams on the Democratic line received 1,225,272 votes, 152,925 in the Bronx. Gonzalo Duran on the Republican line received 440,936 votes citywide and 32,847 in the Bronx. He was also on the Conservative Party, where he received 49,000 votes, 368 citywide, 5,430 in the Bronx. And Jumaane was on the Working Families line, receiving 576,000 votes, 19,400 and 18 votes on the in the Bronx. And Marty Dolan was on the unity line, receiving 45,685 votes, or 3,100 in the Bronx. There were 220,079 votes unrecorded, meaning that almost 200,000 more people didn't vote for this position. And in the Bronx, there were 27,276 unrecorded, which means 23,000 more people didn't vote. Are you still with me, Anthony?
Yes, I am.
Any comments on this? Because, again, Gonzalo Duran got the votes that it looks like Curtis Lewa should have gotten. He got 441,000 votes to Sliwa's 143 on the Republican line. I did twice.
Well, like you just indicated, that's another example of showing you where the last 2 weeks of the campaign, where the Republican Party went haywire and said, vote for Mandami, that shows you, that there was a portion of that work. To talk about this race, the public advocate race from from both the Bronx point of view and a city point of view, I sort of have mixed feelings. In the city, I am amazed that he did fairly well in the city. When you look at the Bronx, however, just himself versus Giuliani, he did actually less than I expected.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's move.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the borough president's race, though, where there was a total of 241,304 votes. In here, 27,126 people decided, I'm not going to vote for borough president. But Vanessa Gibson on the Democratic line received 160,142 votes, and on the Working Families line, she received 17,274 votes. Grace Marrero on the Republican line received 31,486 votes, which somewhat seem in line with Gonzalo Duran in the Bronx, and she received 4,838 on the Conservative Party line, which again is a little drop down from what Gonzalo Duran won. She raised $1,026. Most of it was in kind, which means it was from a campaign manager or from herself or from the head of the Conservative Party who donated to her. So she really didn't have any funds. And Grace said already that, well, I'm running for the Assembly next year against John Sicaro Jr. Little comment about this race?
Yes, very quickly. In regards to that race, what I looked at specifically was the Republican Party versus the Conservative Party, as well as the Working Families Party. Again, we're talking now a borough-wide race. And what I noticed in that race was that, again, if you dissect it into those situations, that Grace, 82% of her vote came from the Republican side. So, of course, the conservative part was only 18%. What's shocking to me about that number is this. The working, non-working, working families party brought in double. So that really worries me as far as the quote unquote strength of the conservative party. So that's what I looked at borough-wide when I looked at that race.
I want to quickly, before I get to the commercial, bring in the 13th council race, because that was the only real competitive race in the Bronx. In 2023, 12,968 people voted. This past year, 36,896 people voted, almost 3 times as many. Marjorie Velazquez received 6,103 votes on the Democratic line in 23. Shirley Aldebo on the Democratic line in 25 received 16,037 votes, almost 10,000 votes more. Christy Marmorato in 23 received 5,775 votes on the Republican line. And this year, 14,242 on the Republican line. On the Conservative line, she received 791 in 23, 1,703 votes. This year, Christie received on the Conservative Party line with about 1,000 more. However, the Working Families Party had no candidate in 23, and this year they had Shirley Aldebo on the Working Families line, who received 2,011 votes. And then there was another candidate, Joel Rivera, on the Unity line, who was 716 votes he received, which was no factor. And there were 2,146 unrecorded votes this year compared to 216 in 2023. So Christy Marmorato did a terrific job. She just was outnumbered by the Democrats. Would you agree?
Yes and no. Yes and no. Two things to say on that race. The first one, and I think the second one is more important, but the first one is, again, I looked at what the Conservative Party was bringing to the table with the Republicans and the Working Families Party. And it's very similar, a little different, but very similar to the Grace situation we were talking about, that it seems like 80% of Christie's vote was Republican based. Right. However, when you now throw in the Working Families Party to the Conservative Party, that number now is double. So again, it really worries me. And again, let's also clarify the 13th Council District is the 80th Assembly District and the 82nd Assembly District. Correct. So, you know, subsequently, it really makes me wonder if the Working Families Party is going to say, okay, is it a one-time every 10 years thing like they, you know, how they've been doing? Or now are they going to take a real presence in the Bronx, knowing that they're basically double the Conservative Party? The second reason is, as you and I have talked off air, I believe what happened, no one saw it, you didn't see it, I didn't see it, no one saw it, was that in those 2 weeks of the Republican Party just totally shifting gears on Curtis. Curtis calls it stab in the back. I'll call it shifting gears. Some of that Cuomo wave obviously went up, and it trickled down to the city council districts in you know, all throughout the city.
Right.
In the 13th council district, where of course it's a very divided district when you look at it party wide, it gave the Democrats an extra boost. In that case, it gave Shirley an extra boost.
Right.
Without that boost, I think it would have been a draw.
Right. Christie won the 82nd by about 2,000 votes, but lost the 80th by 4,000 votes. So that's the difference of the Working Families Party, 2,000 votes. And there was a big push in the 80th Assembly District. And I don't know if our producer wants to go to a commercial right now or not. So let me give him a chance to go to a commercial now, as we normally do in mid-throw. So let's go to a commercial now. If not, we'll just continue. Or you can just come right, you know, cut us off and go to the commercial. Obviously, we're not going to commercial, so let's go into next year, Tony.
Okay, next year. I'm not running.
Her Lieutenant Governor Antonio Delgado is going to be challenging Kathy Hochul in the June primary. Almost said September. It's been moved up to June. And in November, Ellie Stefanik, a congresswoman from upstate New York, will be challenging her in the general election. Now, let's move on to congressional districts here in the Bronx. The 13th Congressional District, Manhattan and the Bronx. District 13 represents the Upper West Side, Morningside Heights, Harlem, Washington Heights, Inwood, and Manhattan, and parts of Fordham, Morris Heights, University, Norwood, Bedford Park, and Jerome, which Anthony's district, that's Anthony's, oh, here we go. We were just talking about your Congressman, Adriano Espaillat. He's represented the district since 2017. Now, he's got a couple of challenges. One is Teresa Alvina Chavilla, a Florida native.
What? Oh.
Don't ask me. I don't know. Maybe you can pronounce her name better.
Nah, you got to do better reporting on that. Huh? What was that?
She's a Florida native who now lives in Harlem and is vying for Espaillat's seat. She's backed by the progressive group Justice Democrats, which is the same PAC that helped jumpstart AOC, her congressional campaign in 2018. Other candidates include Oscar Romero, Chief Information Officer, the city's engagement commission. He lives in East Harlem and is running as a Democratic Socialist. There's James Fenton Keith, who goes by JFK. He founded the Harlem Center, which provides programs and services to LGBT New Yorkers. Matt Milner, Theo Chino Tavares, Janelle Amala, Megan Rodriguez also officially announced running according to the campaign finance records. Any comments on the 13th Council District? Do you think Adriano will win, or does he have a problem?
You mean the 13th Congressional District?
Congressional District.
I want to be a little careful how I say this because I have to say in full disclosure that one or two of the people you just mentioned have reached out to me. As far as the competitiveness in the race, the district itself is Central West Harlem, North Bronx, a slither of the South Bronx related race. I think Adriano's the inside favorite. I would look out for JFK. He ran before. He's on the ground. There's a woman that you also mentioned. I believe her name is Elena, that I know is doing a lot of campaigning. And then, of course, you mentioned Justice Democrats. And I heard, ironically, through one of the founding fathers of that organization, that they were going to be doing some work in Harlem against Adriano. So I think it will be somewhat of a competitive race, but Adriano has a huge advantage.
Now, in District 15, the congressional district that covers parts of the Bronx, including Mott Haven, Allerton, Morrisania, Fordham, Melrose, Riverdale, as well as areas around Yankee Stadium and the Bronx Zoo. And it goes including up across Morris Park and above Pelham Parkway to a point. Richie Torres represented the district in the House since 2021. Torres is a staunch defender of Israel, leading some more progressive candidates to ISC. Michael Blake, a Bronx native and ordained minister, represented the Bronx for a term in the state assembly, the 79th Assembly District, which is not in this 15th congressional district. And he's run failed campaigns for public advocate, Congress, and most recently mayor, where he ran for mayor and lost. His latest loss was in the primary, where he finished 8th among a dozen candidates in the June primary. Blake has been endorsed by former Mayor Bill de Blasio. He's faced issues in the past about the legitimacy of his residency in the Bronx and related tax problems. He also was a moderate, which is he's now leaning towards the social, being more of a socialist. Delarney Namorin is a public defender, member of Bronx Community Board 1, and is a DSA member. South Bronx native Jose Vega has also thrown his hat in the race. John Latona has also filed to run. Now, Torres has raised nearly $4 million already for his 2026 campaign. Vega reported $101,386 in campaign finding, and no one else has reported anything else in that race. Any comments? Is Richie going to cruise to an easy win?
Not totally. Not totally. If it was a straight up Blake versus Torres race, my own opinion, I think Blake would lose 65-35. However, some of those third-party candidates that, not third-party, but B-rated candidates that you just mentioned, I think can gather a total of 15-20%. And that will make it harder for Richie. However, I think Michael Blake, as I said in the last segment, sometimes we have to realize where we fall in our political spectrum. If you ask 9 out of 10 people, politically speaking, what was Michael Blake's fame as an elected official, they would tell you his term in the state assembly. Only because they were very surprised that A, he won it, and then B, he did a decent job while he was there. Some people, myself included, believe maybe he should go back to local government. But of course, people like him, people like Gonzo Duran, people like Grace, people like Miss Irene Estrada, who you mentioned, go for much higher office.
Right.
And that's fine, but sometimes we have to know really where our spot is. I think Richie will win, but it will be a tougher race, maybe 65%.
Now, in the New York Attorney General's race, we have Attorney General Letitia James. I believe she's still under indictment. I don't know if it was thrown out. It was thrown out again. Okay. There are several Republicans looking to replace a former federal prosecutor. Saritha Cameretti announced Monday she would seek the Republican nomination to take on the Democrat incumbent, James, making her the third Republican to enter the race. I'm running for AG because we need a prosecutor in charge, focused on New York and focused on safety, she said in a statement. She joins Michael Henry, who ran last year and came close to James, and Kurad Dara. James is seeking a third term next year. Any comments on the AG's race?
I think it's going to be a much tougher race. I think Michael Henry will only make it tougher because Letitia James did take a hit on this. Yes, the case was recently thrown out for a second time, and it looks like there won't be a third, but there's still a lot of damaged goods there. And I think some of that will hurt her. I do think she'll win, but it's going to be that might be the race of the season.
You haven't commented on the Hackle Stefanik race. Any comment there? Or it's too soon?
In my opinion, Elsie still has a long way to go. It looks like she's going to be the party nominee, of course. A lot of people are gathering towards her. She's been making a lot of public statements lately. Now, all of a sudden, she's turning into Marjorie Greene Part 2, where she's disagreeing with Trump every 5 minutes. I wish her luck. Hackle is my favorite food in the morning is pancakes. So she's not Hackle's not an order of pancakes as far as I'm concerned. But Elsie, in my opinion, still has a lot to prove.
Well, you see, I have a little history with former Lieutenant Governor Hackle at one Bronx Democratic Party dinner. It was a rainy night. The governor was Governor Cuomo back then was up in an airplane in the storm. And I turned and I said to her, gee, your boss is up in an airplane. If anything should happen to him, are you prepared to take over as governor? And that was her expression. And the local Bronx Democratic Party people said, Bob, get away from her, because she looked like a deer in headlights. So now she's the governor, and people are saying, well, she's doing a good job, she's doing a fair job, she's doing a lousy job. And we'll see what happens next year. But I want to get into the speaker's race because it looks like City Council member Julie Menon has all but sewn up the race to be Speaker of the 51-member chamber, but she wants to be sworn in with a broad coalition as possible to bolster her strength. She has been reaching out to her colleagues and talked with Mayor-elect Mondami. On Tuesday, first report in Playbook, Menon announced that she has the support of all 5 Democratic Party leaders, including our own Bronx Democratic Party leader, Jamal Bailey. She's endorsed by 37 council members, a supermajority super powerful unions, including Hotel and Gaming Trades Council and the Transport Workers Union, and the Manhattan Moderate, who formerly led the Department of Consumer Affairs in the de Blasio administration, is regarded by some allies as a check on Mandami, but she sought to emphasize that in an interview earlier this week with Playbook, areas where that she and the Democratic Socialists agree upon. Any comment on Julie Menon as the next speaker?
Oh, very much. You know, people don't understand that she actually won that election 10 years ago. You know, Julie Menon, to her credit, has been a great city public servant. And I think 80%, maybe even more than that, in my opinion, is based, you know, her winning this seat is based on that. Now, it's not official yet. As you know, they still got to go and vote. And yes, there's still a lot of behind the scenes politicking going into play. Look out for the envelopes. But, you know, she has a solid record, Julie Menon, of being a public servant. I think that will carry her over. And I think she'll do a hell of a good job, because one of the things that Julie has done in her many years of city service is that, again, in my opinion, she's used common sense over partisan politics in many of her decisions.
I just want to go through a few items quickly because we're running over. I want to end with the State Gaming Commission. We'll get into that after I go through these quick few items. The NYPD stats came out for November. They're up on my blog under NYPD stats for November, comparing them to the previous year. Again, Mayor Adams says everything is down. Let's see what happens next year when Mayor Mandami comes in, if the stats keep going down or not. The 2026 state legislative calendar was released Tuesday, with lawmakers scheduled to spend 61 days in Albany this year. January 7th is the first of 7 days in January. There are 10 in February, 16 in March, up to April 1st when the state budget is due, 7 days in April, 16 in May to finish up any business, 4 days in June, ending the session on June 4th, and it's off to the rest of the year unless there is a special session called. The minimum wage in New York State will be increased by 50 cents per hour in January. The minimum wage workers will increase January 1 to $17 in the city, Westchester County, and Long Island. The rest of the state, including Syracuse and upstate New York, will increase to $16 an hour. Subway and bus fare evasion cost the city transit system nearly $1 billion last year, almost twice the sum that the Manhattan congestion pricing is expected to be collected this year. The New York Times reports MTA chair and CEO Janet Lebo said the transit system is going European style in its efforts to significantly shape up how it enforces fare evasion on the buses, using fare agents, not police officers, to go after customers and to seek their payment. And the fare will be going up to $3 comes January 1st. Any comment on those three items, Anthony?
Yeah, real quickly. So mentioning all these increases, how much of a raise are you getting?
I'm getting 2 cents as a raise.
Oh, okay. You're getting underpaid, man. I don't know.
But
it's a ripoff. It's a ripoff. Real quick with the crime stats. Quick, my opinion only. In the last 4 or 5 years, we have declassified many types of crimes. And I think we forget that now when these numbers come in, right? Well, what was once classified is no longer classified. So that means inherently those numbers go down. So now when they say, oh, crime's going down, that doesn't really tell me it's really going down. At least in my opinion. Because again, if you're gonna, where you were classifying something before and now you're not, well, the number's gonna automatically go down.
All right, I want to get to this last item. The gaming facility location board has performed a true public service, it said. The 5 individuals, the 5 individuals, including one that was recently put on with ties to Carl Hasty, volunteered hundreds of hours to review and digest thousands of pages of complex application material and ultimately made the best selections for the state of New York. We are thankful for their dedication, their service for what has been up to now a thankless task. We entered this process with a tabula rasa, which means a clean slate, and are concluding with 3 impressive projects that will transform communities, establish career opportunities for residents, and drive much-needed revenue to the MTA public schools in the city. The Gaming Commission has already undertaken the background investigations of the applicants and expeditiously applying a statutory licensability criteria to ensure that these casinos are operated with the utmost integrity and financial responsibility. A New York gaming license is a privilege, and this commission will ensure that those entities fortunate enough to be selected for licensees meet New York's rigorous statements. Now, comments, how much more needed MTA revenue, how much more to the schools and to the city, what happened to the lottery money that was taken in and given to the schools. It's the same thing that's going to happen to this added revenue, which State Senator Gustavo Rivera keeps saying when referring to the cannabis money. Where is all this new money or revenue, State Senator Rivera, really going? Where is the lottery, the cannabis, and revenue from casino gambling going? And what is being taken out of the state budget that new revenue streams have to be added? And my best comment, and I want you to comment on this, Councilman Eric Dinowitz says, oh, it's a great place that is for the casino. It's going to be the best place. But you know what would be a better place would be Van Cortlandt Park, which is right at the end of the number 1 line, which mass transit. It has a golf course, Van Cortlandt Park. It has parking. And it's right by the rich people in Riverdale, so they can come down right down the hill because they're not going down to Bally's over there. They go to Van Cortlandt Park. So, you would take the money from the rich people rather than soak it from the poor people in the South Bronx who can't afford it. Any comment, Anthony?
Let me get up from the floor. I'm laughing too hard. Yeah, you know what? Instead of commenting, let me give you an idea. 2026, a lot of good things are going to happen. I know you got some new things going to happen with the show you're going to announce in the future. I would really suggest, as an idea, that this whole process, right, from beginning to end, I could think of 20 questions alone, right, that we could ask along the way. I think you should consider for 2026 dissecting this process as part of the show, as part of a future, show or a series of shows, because there are so many questions here. I mean, so many, from the start of it to the end of it, all the envelopes in between, who's done it before, there are just so many questions. I mean, if I got into it now, this would be a 3-hour show. But so I do think, this is, as an idea, I think it's something that you should think about dissecting, in the future. People are asking, right? Why did Yonkers Raceway walk away? Well, did they really walk away? I mean, they were ready for 15 years. They were ready for 15 years. When the Gaming Commission said to them, oh, no, well, we need a hotel, they amended their proposal and gave them a hotel. So how did they walk away? Why did they walk away? I got my own feelings on that, but I think something like that is just one of 100 questions that can be dissected. And I think, you'll hear the word envelopes a lot.
Well, the reason they said was, oh, we thought it was a 30-year deal and not just a 15-year deal. So, they're the only ones who said that. No one else said that. I don't understand it, too. I would rather see Yonkers as a casino than down at Ferry Point because you had everything there already. It would have opened up within a year. Ferry Point's going to take at least 3 years to open. If it opens.
What did Aqueduct say? Aqueduct said they'd be ready by March. That's what they said. And Yonkers probably would have been the same thing. They probably would have been ready by March, or maybe even before. So to make a long story short, and I want to be careful how I say this, I think it's going to be known that Yonkers is looking for what I would call future consideration of zoning change. And walking away from this deal now, keep in mind, they can put it back in the future because you got a 2026 round that's going to happen. So with appropriate zoning changes, They could put in another bid for 2026. I understand they want to build something with the hotel, and with the hotel, some zoning changes have to happen. It wouldn't surprise me if
Okay,
some of
Anthony,
the pop.
I'm going to cut you off here right now. I'd like you to come back next week and continue this talk and other talk about any new items that come up. And I want to ask all my viewers, if you want Anthony to be a permanent guest on the show, go to my Facebook page, 100%, or Anthony's Facebook page, Northwest Bronx Democrats, where you saw the lead for this show, the tie-in, and put your comments there if you want Anthony to be the permanent co-host on the show or not. Okay, that's what I asked you. Would you agree with me on that, Anthony?
I have no comment, but I got my cigarettes ready.
All right, let me end the show here. We ran over a lot. We have a lot to talk about. That's why I like Anthony to come on the show. We talk. We sometimes agree. We sometimes disagree, but we talk, and it gets out there. So I want to thank you for watching today, and I'll see you next week. And Anthony, I want you to come back next week. We'll continue this talk about the casino gambling. Okay, thank you for watching.
In a world where the quality of information available to poorer communities is doctored, tainted and sometimes regressive, where the words fake news have come to mean other people's opinions, it is vital to rely on news platforms with journalists who have feet on the ground and can report the truth. New York Parrot, a New York-based national and global news outlet, is changing the narratives of media operations. We focus on the news that matters, like self-empowerment, entrepreneurship, finances, health, security, politics, and more. We strive to curb violence, racial and economic discrimination, and to promote peace and socio-economic development of multiculturally diverse world. As we give voice to the people, we also give your business a voice and make it heard. Get your products and services off the ground by advertising on our fast-growing platform. With so much of daily visits to New York Parrot, you can't afford to be invisible to prospective clients on the websites they trust the most. Our posts reach millions of people across the New York State and around the world. Advertising on our new site will unlock an audience of thousands of potential customers on your doorstep. New York Parrot is born to prosperously speak tomorrow for the voiceless.
Imagine a media platform that reshapes the conversation, empowers your voice, and redefines the Bronx community. Bronx Post, changing the reality, changing the narrative. For businesses, politicians, and government agencies, we offer targeted advertising solutions that drive results. Amplify your message. Reach the heart of the Bronx and beyond. Our platform connects you to the community. Learn more. Email info@bronxpost.com or call 718-892-5555. Visit www